Now, there have been a bunch of different questions about the new Roxon Titan. And I think one of the best comparisons to do, first off, I don't think it's maybe the most accurate comparison, but the one most people will compare this to is the Leatherman Surge. So I want to go ahead and do more of an in-depth review. And then at the end of this video, I will try to personally address some of those questions that you've left in the first video. And as more people comment on that video in follow-up videos, I will try to address those questions as well. And even the questions that you post below, because I know the Roxon Titan is a very new product, and some of you are just getting it, and some of you are still figuring out if you want to get it. All right here, first off, let's look at the outside. I really like what Roxon has done with the G10 scales. It makes it look really nice. This will come in about a ½ inch shorter than the Leatherman Surge. And then when we talk about the width of the Roxon Titan, it's a little hard because the Surge at this point right here at the top is almost the same width as the Titan. The thing is, the Surge narrows where the Titan pretty much is almost like a bell. It expands at the bottom a little bit. That's to accommodate this blade right here, which is very large, and some of the other blades that you can put on your brand new Roxon Titan. So while yes, the Surge is a little bit longer, the Roxon Titan in parts is definitely wider. Now, when we talk about outside opening tools, the Surge has the serrated knife. It has the T-shank adapter. If I can get mine out right here, mine's a little stuck. T-shank adapter, which has the saw, and then of course you can put the file. And then on this side, you would have your knife on your Leatherman Surge, the normal knife. I have a MagnaCut that I modded in mine, and then the really nice set of scissors. So let's compare that, and maybe the first thing to do is to do a scissor comparison test. I think that maybe makes the most sense. Let's go ahead and open the Roxon Titan. I'm still trying to figure out where everything is on here. I haven't had mine that long, but these are the scissors. Both of them are spring-loaded scissors, but here is the Roxon Titan compared to the Leatherman Surge. Here's another comparison from this side. The Titan is definitely a lot bigger. Let's do it against paracord. This is an older Leatherman Surge, rather. These scissors, yeah, seem a little bit dull, and I have already demonstrated how sharp the Titan is. Really, really sharp. Let me bring over these modded set of this Surge. I have not modded the scissors. So the scissors on this one definitely cut better, but still nothing near the Roxon Titan. The Roxon Titan is just so much better. Let's go ahead and bring in some of the rubber bicycle inner tube. Does slice through that, the Leatherman Surge. And yeah, I don't know, the Titan is just on another level when you talk about the scissors. It can just bite right through here, whereas when we use the scissors on the Surge, it cuts, but it's going to take a while. It feels like I'm bogged down. Yeah, we're getting there, I think. But maybe, yeah, we'll get there eventually. But these scissors, yeah, unfortunately on mine, I have had this a while. I have used these scissors for a while. Maybe that's it. I'll give the Surge a little bit more of a pass because these are not brand new scissors. But unfortunately, at least on these, they're not very sharp. When we're talking about scissors, the Roxon Flex definitely, or the Titan rather, it is the Flex Titan, but the Roxon Titan definitely wins in that area. Now, when we compare the Roxon and the Surge blades, this is probably the best comparison I can give you. Now, I did compare this to the blade I have in my Leatherman Surge, and this seems to be pretty much, I think this might be the one I took out, but the Leatherman Wave and the Leatherman Surge are pretty close. But anyway, this gives you probably the best comparison I can give you. The blades are pretty much going to be the same size in length, but where the Leatherman is a little bit more narrower, the Roxon will be, well, I was going to say twice as wide. Not really, but yeah, it's got a lot more depth. You can sharpen this a lot more times, whereas with the Leatherman, it will be a lot more narrower. I don't know how important that is to you. You can just buy replacement blades. For a lot of us are a little bit lazier, we might just buy some replacement blades, but for those of you who love to sharpen your knife blades, that might be a big deal. Now, before we move on, I think this might be a big deal. This is what Roxon is doing. They have this smooth bearing new system that I have seen on a couple of their latest releases, and it is also on this, the Titan. So what that means is when you put this knife blade in here and this handle right here, if we can get someone to design some thumb studs for the Titan, this might actually deploy super smooth. I mean, it seems to deploy super smooth, but because you have to reach in so far, it's a little bit harder. But yeah, if we can get someone to design some thumb studs for this and sell it on Etsy, I think that could be pretty cool. That bearing system, it is actually really smooth when you open that. Smoother than the Leatherman Surge. Now, I have adjusted the tension on this. Let's go ahead and bring, this is Ben from Backcountry CAD. But yeah, even with this, the Surge is definitely a little stiffer when you open the blade. I don't know how much that matters to some people, but the Roxon Titan is so much smoother. So we've addressed two of the outside tools, the knife and the scissors. Let's talk about the serrated blade. Now, one of the things that the Roxon comes with is a serrated blade, but this one right here, yeah, take a look at that. Very, very small compared to the Surge. Now, you can get large serrated blades. This is, so I actually told someone this was from a pocket clip. This is from the Dango wallet. This is the case from a Dango wallet. And this is the saw you can put, the utility knife, the file, and then I've got several knife blades in here. I thought I had a serrated blade. Maybe it's in here somewhere, but I don't see one at the moment. But yeah, you can get large serrated blades to fit in your Roxon Titan, but then you'll have to swap out the other blade. Whereas in the Leatherman Surge, the advantage is it already has a very large serrated blade and a large main blade. Now, the last thing that we notice about the Surge on the outside is the T-shank adapter. Now, I'm going to try to run this as my work tool right here, and I have decided to actually go with the file and the saw, but I could go with the T-shank adapter in the outside. Now, this is the T-shank adapter from the Roxon Titan. Let's go ahead and see if the Surge saw fits in it and if they're interchangeable. All right, so here is the Titan. This is the little T-shank blade that comes with it, and also two spacers. Let's see, nope. The Leatherman Surge, well, let's see. It will not fit in there without some adjustment, some grinding. It's too long to fit in there like it is. So unfortunately, that will not work. They are not interchangeable without some modification. Now, on the other hand, if you so desire to put your Roxon saw blades in your Leatherman Surge, that actually does seem to work. I did use a spacer in there. It seems to be pretty secure. So in case you were wondering, that does seem to work, swapping over your Roxon saw blades in the T-shank adapter of your Leatherman Surge. Now, when we go to the inside of the Leatherman Surge, this is where the Leatherman Surge has a very clear advantage, I feel like, with its pliers. They are considerably larger than the Roxon Titan. Now, in the part right here at the bottom, in the belly of the pliers, I guess you could say, there's not a huge amount of difference, but definitely at the top, it gets larger. There seems to be a lot bigger opening here for if you would want to use this like as a wrench. The wire cutters are maybe fairly close in size One of the things you will notice is that the Roxon Titan does not have that annoying gap that Leatherman has developed in the last couple years. This is an older Leatherman Surge, and so with this one, there's no gap. This is the good older style. I love these wire cutters from the old days. Right here, still going strong on this Leatherman Surge. So I think that the plier head on the Leatherman Surge is definitely a win versus the Roxon Titan. And that's fine because I think Roxon was going for a little bit of weight savings, and they're not going after the same crowd that the Leatherman Surge is, which is fairly apparent in some of their choices. Now, one of the things I love in the Leatherman Surge as well is these ruler markings. That is something I did not even think about on the Titan, but it does not have ruler markings. You can get ruler tools that come with the Flex system or the Phantom system, but they are not made on the handles of the Titan. So today, as I've been making some review videos, something happened, bit into my finger, and I'm now fully recovered with a Band-Aid. All right, let's keep going. Now on the Leatherman Surge, what we have is this bit driver, the Leatherman bit driver, which I've frequently really sort of ridiculed, and I have not liked it. The can opener, the wire stripper. But today, perhaps for the first time, I understood a little bit why Leatherman continues to use, refuses to use a 1/4-inch bit driver. And I think that's just because a Leatherman bit driver takes up so much space. And that is very apparent on the Titan when this takes up 4 spaces. So all these tools right here, you have to take out of your Titan: the can opener, the chisel, the serrated blade, and the rope cutter. They all have to go if you're going to keep the 2 longer blades and the bit driver. That is unfortunate, but that's just how it is. There's only so thick you want a multi-tool, and at least you can always take the bit driver out if you want to. But because of this, different people have said, why don't we have a 4mm bit driver? Why don't we have a Leatherman bit driver as an option? And I think perhaps in the future we will see that, but at the moment we do have this 1/4-inch, full 1/4-inch bit driver, which does a nice job, but does take up a lot of space. So if you take that out, or one of the longer tools out, you could also have this can opener. Now the can opener does not have a wire stripping notches on it. Rather, those will be on the chisel blade. So you would want to include that if you really wanted those wire strippers. All right, enough about that. Let's go to the other side. On the other side is a couple extra screwdrivers and the awl. Now, none of those come standard on the Titan. You can get some extra screwdrivers, you can get an awl, but that is something you will need to buy extra. So here's a couple tools that give you an idea of what you could include in your Titan. Here is the awl from the Flex system. Here's a larger screwdriver with the bottle opener from the Flex system, and then even a Marlin spike. If you so desire, you could sharpen that and make that a huge awl, I suppose, or use it as it is. But yeah, those are some of the tools that you could include in your Titan to make it have more of the capability of your Leatherman Surge. But just be aware that whatever you put in, you have to take something out of your tool set. One of the things also that the Titan has is this nice built-in pocket clip, whereas in the Surge does have a removable pocket clip. You can fairly easily put that on. One of the things I do like about the Titan is this little ink pen that fits in the handle. Pretty clever right there. I've talked before about these tools that you can lock so they don't fly open on you. Very comfortable handles, very easy to access. Different people have said that they have, for different health reasons, have found some multi-tools a little bit hard to access, and these can help with that. So someone said you had a morbid curiosity if you could fit pliers and pliers. You were just curious if these little pliers for the smaller Flex series actually would work in this, like the Flex Companion. Well, the answer is sort of. You can fit them in here, they just don't really close properly. they sort of get stuck right here. And then when you push them all the way down, this lever, for some reason, yeah, it just doesn't really work to push them back up. Now, maybe if you had the right combination of tools, I tried to use this 1/4 inch bit driver and these tools in here, and it wasn't really working for me at all. However, when I put back the file, when I put back the saw, let's get both of these back in here. There we go. Close these up, snap these into place. Now everything works correctly. So I'm assuming that pretty much that's a no. Another thing one of you asked is, what is this material made out of? Well, the knife blade is D2, and then you can see that some is the same material as the Victorinox, that DIN 1.4116. I believe that's like the Victorinox. And then we've got 3CR13, 2CR13, G10, and ABS. And then the T-shank adapter is this 420H hardened stainless steel, and the bit driver is 420. Hopefully that answers a little bit. I assume the plier head maybe is made out of some of this 3CR13. Maybe the handles are 2CR13, but I'm not sure if they are any more specific about the material than what's on this box. Now, one of the other things that I probably should address is a utility knife. In the last video, I talked about how the utility knife, maybe some of the metal need trimmed off, and some of you mentioned that all you need to do is just undo the pivot a little bit, and then the utility knife fits in there and the system all works. I will probably do that in the future. Right now, I'm going to just leave the Titan as it is as I test it, but eventually I will try that trick out. Now, one of you also asked, what about the Roxon Titan compared to the Roxon Flex? Well, when we look at the measurements, they pretty much both come in almost the exact same size and length. There's not really that much difference. Now, the huge difference is the width. Definitely a lot wider. And in thickness, yeah, not a huge difference, but the Titan will be a little bit thicker. All right, here's the Roxon Titan, coming in at 10.5 ounces. Here is the Roxon Flex coming in at 7.9 ounces. Now, some of that is because I've adjusted the tool set. The more tools you add or take out, some of that will fluctuate. For the rest of the world, let's go ahead and compare in grams. We've got 310 grams for the Titan. For the Roxon Flex, 235 grams. Now, I think one of the areas that the Roxon Titan Flex really shines is those areas where knife flaws are getting extremely tough and stringent. That's where the beauty of this is, where you can swap out components. You have a little bit of a better, bigger, badder system that you can carry in your pocket. And as long as the scissors don't get you in trouble, you can swap out all kinds of components. When you get home, you can put the knife back in, use it for yard work, farm work, work in the workshop, opening packages, whatever, but out and about, you can take out these implements. So I think that's something we should not underestimate. This is very important for some people in specific countries. In the past, I've made the mistake of lumping everyone together as Europe or something else. That is obviously not true. Some of you have graciously corrected me, but if you're in one of those countries, and it may be in the country I'm in soon, where the knife laws get very, very strict, then these systems become so much more valuable. And that's something that we can definitely thank Roxon for, and creating tools where everyone can enjoy a multi-tool, not just a select few.